Council agenda, Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, regular Township Council meeting on March 16th, 2021. Introduction, posting of notice. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board at the Municipal Building on December 18th, 2020, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record, the Newark Star Ledger on December 22nd, 2020, and was forwarded by fax to other local newspapers and local radio stations on December 18th, 2020. Note, council meetings are videotaped and aired on public access channel 21 at 7 p.m. Sundays and Wednesdays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net. May I please ask everyone to stand for the flag salute, and I turn it over to you, Mayor, to lead us, please.
Thank you, Clerk. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and go into roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Here.
Mr. McCarthy?
Here.
Ms. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor Michael Soriano, Business Administrator Frederick Carr. Our CFO Juan Uribe had a previous engagement and wasn't able to make it today. Also have Jim Lott, our Township Attorney. Additionally present for presentations are going to be Justin Liza, Susan Favante, and Carlo Delizia will be on later to speak. With that being said, Council President, we have a quorum. May I please begin?
Please begin.
Thank you, Council President. Upcoming meetings, April 6th, 2021 at 7 p.m., the agenda meeting. April 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m., the regular meeting. Moving on to the approval of minutes. We have the minutes for the agenda meeting of January 5th, 2021, the regular meeting of January 19th, 2021, and the agenda meeting of February 2nd, 2021. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes above?
Motion, Grignani.
Second.
McCarthy.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on to the presentation and reports. At this time, we'll go ahead and turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you, Clerk. I'd like to start with this proclamation recognizing April as Sikh Awareness Month. Now, whereas the cultural and intellectual diversity of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills is a source of strength and inspiration for its residents, and whereas the Sikh community continues to play an integral, though often overlooked, role in strengthening the religious, social, and political fabric of this township, and whereas Sikhism is the world's 5th largest religion with nearly 30 million adherents, roughly 500,000 of whom call the United States home. And whereas founded by Guru Nanak in the Punjab region of India during the 15th century, the Sikh spiritual tradition is rooted in the belief that every person, regardless of race, gender, sex, or creed, is equal before God. And whereas believing that every person shares a connection through the oneness of God, the Sikh community emerges as a force for social justice by encouraging female participants in religious services and initiating interfaith efforts to combat oppression and injustice. And whereas the religion's central principles of truthful living, service to humanity, and devotion to God also inspire its believers to create inclusive communities where all are respected. And whereas Sikhs celebrate Vaisakhi on the first day of the month of Vaisakh in the Sikh calendar, which typically falls on April 13th or 14th. And whereas Vaisakhi is a special occasion in which Sikhs remember the founding in 1699 of the Khalsa Panth, a fellowship of devout soldier saints, which played an important role in shaping the religious history and identity. Whereas it is altogether fitting and proper for the residents of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills to celebrate the day of Vaisakhi alongside Sikhs throughout the world and to honor the lasting contributions made by the Sikh community in New Jersey. Now therefore, I, Michael Soriano, of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, do hereby proclaim April 2021 as Sikh Awareness Month here in the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, and encourage all citizens to join us in recognizing the Sikh community. Just here to comment is a Parsippany resident who reached out to me, a high school student here. Her name is Nishka Singh. Nishka, IT, can you allow Nishka to speak? Is she on? IT, can you hear me?
Yeah, Mayor, we hear you, but we don't see her on. Is it
Okay.
Jinapal Singh?
Jinapal Singh?
Is that her?
I
We
don't
also
know.
understand Deep Singh. I don't, in the.
Hi.
The only, it's Nishka Singh.
Yep, I'm right here. I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
there she is.
I'm so sorry. We had some technical difficulties.
That's a common thing for the past 12 months. Nishka, you wanted to say something to the council and to the community?
Sure. Thank you all so much for having me. I apologize for the delay. Mayor Soriano, what you've done is truly exceptional, and I want to thank you and your entire team for all of your support in this endeavor. I actually feel so blessed that your town, or our town, works to heal not only the visible cuts, but the more hidden and deeper wounds that afflict our communities. What you've given me, Mayor, is an opportunity and the confidence to do something that is larger than myself, and for that I should be forever grateful. While we watched in horror as the Twin Towers were attacked and shuddered at the cruelty of it all, little did we know that soon we would be called terrorists. The Sikh community, unfortunately, has become the target of hate crimes post 9/11 because of the turbans and unshorn hair. For me to say that Sikhs are not Muslims would imply that it's okay to target Muslims, whereas no faith should be targeted for the actions of a few. I'm here to make our communities aware that Sikhism is as distinct a faith as Christianity or Islam or Hinduism. I want to let you know what's behind the turban, which attracts so much prejudice and more often than not, hatred and fear. I'm here to let you know that behind that turban is compassion and humility and a deep commitment to equality and social justice, which are very much the values of this great country of ours. I also want to let you know that kids like me and younger are bullied at twice the national average, and we have known no other reality. And I believe that education and awareness is the key to tolerance and acceptance. I'm so proud of the Parsippany community because you all have opened doors and hearts and have shown me how beautiful acceptance can be, right from the mayor's office to the Parsippany School District. You've shown me so much acceptance and willingness to make a change, and I really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much for doing this. It means a lot.
Nishka, thank you very much, and good luck as you pursue your Gold Award with the through the Girl Scout program.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure getting to know you. Thank you.
Too.
Other than that, there was a request from Council Member McCarthy to speak with the health officer. That will be covered under the Business Administrator's report. I have nothing else to report. Thank you, Clerk. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. And a very nice speech, Ms. Singh. Excellent speech. Moving along to the Township Council, I turn it over to the Council President.
Well, I have two items I'd just like to highlight. One is an ordinance regulating the implementation of 5G technology in Parsippany. As you may be aware, about 20 years ago when Mimi was the mayor, I initiated a cell tower ordinance regulating cell towers in Parsippany. My ordinance put the onus on cell companies to prove that there was no existing structure that they could mount their cell antennas onto, either water towers or power lines or commercial building roofs. Um, They had to prove there was no other viable alternative except a cell tower before they could build in Parsippany. That onus protected Parsippany for all these years, and it served us very well, and we minimized the actual number of cell towers we have in Parsippany. Now we have a new technology coming out. It's 5G. Now 5G is a wider bandwidth, a higher frequency, which means it does not travel as far. What that means is they will need many more antennas for 5G than they had for regular cell service. Where they place them, how high they're going to be, what materials they're going to use for their poles, where they use existing poles, where they have to put up new poles, and what type they will be. I would like to now initiate an ordinance that will regulate the 5G technology in Parsippany, again, to protect our town. Just to let you know that's coming. Any feedback would be welcome from anyone in administration or council.
And Council President,
Yes, sir.
I had actually spoken to Administrator Kazmark about this before he left. We have a draft of an ordinance that we should be able to circulate shortly. I need to speak to the township engineer as well as the township planner.
Can you send me a copy of that also?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. The second item I'd like to mention, it's 12th hour. I'm not sure we have time to do it now, but I would like to have introduced a resolution tonight opposing the Mountain Lakes application for a Wawa where Xeris is today. That will be a super Wawa with 16 fueling stations, a 112-room hotel, and they will have access onto Fox Hill Road, right where the exit now is from Xeris, which will hugely impact now Fox Hill Road exit onto Route 46. Anyone from that gas station that wants to go west on 46 will have to come out that little exit and back up the traffic on Fox Hill Road. It's going to be a nightmare. So I will remind you that when the Whole Foods was before the Township Council and Planning Board, Mountain Lakes had no problem coming to our town and telling us what we should do en masse. So our residents in Rainbow Lakes are really upset over this, and I would like to draft a resolution opposing this application on behalf of the residents of Rainbow Lakes. The problem is, I believe the application is going forward Thursday, and I just received this information with all information I need to present a resolution late this afternoon. I haven't had time to draft one. If I can draft one tomorrow morning, can I email it to all the council members, administration, and maybe take accelerated action to meet that Thursday night meeting? Is that possible?
We can adopt a sense of the council resolution tonight and then memorialize it at the next council meeting, Council President.
But the meeting is Thursday night.
I think the best that we can do is we can adopt the resolution orally tonight, send notification to Mountain Lakes that council has adopted a resolution opposing the application, and then memorialize it more formally at the next meeting.
Okay.
Jim, how about a letter written by the council and signed by the council?
That's what I was, a
Sure,
letter? Okay.
right.
Instead of a
We could do
resolution.
that.
Well, yeah, we could, get the information to the clerk's office and then Clegg can then sign it for the council members or try to track down the council members and electronically sign it or something like that. Because you're right, we'll never get a resolution in time for Thursday, but I think a letter jointly presented by the council, and if the mayor would like to weigh in, obviously him to sign the opposition thereof and then present that to them as our opposition.
Well, if the mayor wants, this can be a joint letter from all of us.
That'll be fine. There should be a vote taken to authorize the letter.
I was going to ask for that now.
I'll make a motion.
Can I just ask a question? Jim, what's the impact of this letter on Mountain Lakes? Would that,
It just gives our opinion.
it's just an
That's
opinion?
That's
Is that-
correct.
Okay, but it doesn't have any impact on their going forward with the project then, does
No,
it?
no, it does not. But what it does, Janice, is it shows the residents of Rainbow Lakes, we care about the quality of life in their community, and we're doing what we can.
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted to know if it had any impact on them, going forward. Or if we could ask them to make some changes to how they enter and exit the premises.
I looked into that. They're planning to widen, they're gonna have 2 on Fox Hill Road. They're gonna widen it to 3 lanes, 1 coming in and 2 exiting. So the 2 exiting will be a right turn and a left turn, and then 1 entrance coming in. That'll help a little bit, but this is gonna be a 24-hour station and hotel.
Wow,
That's gonna impact on them severely.
yeah.
Okay, with regards to the letter, the authorization, at this point, we have a motion authorizing a letter to be signed by all 5 members of the council and the mayor, and I have a motion by Paul. Could I have a second?
Second.
Who wants to take that one? All right, Loretta, so seconded by Loretta. Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes,
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
and Mr. DePiero.
Yes,
So the motion passes for the letter. So at this time, I guess the information will be brought to me from administration with regards to that. I have already the stamps. So we could, as long as I have your authorization, all 5 members, which I'm assuming from the vote, I will go ahead and stamp the letter. I'll get the mayor to sign the letter as well, and then we will send it out. I mean, Council President, would you like me to send it to you to be sent to Mountain Lakes, or do we send it directly to them?
send it directly to them, don't waste time.
Okay,
But I was gonna try to draft something quickly and send it to you tomorrow morning.
okay, so once you do that, I will then speak with Mr. Carr. We'll discuss that, and then we'll get the letter moving after we've consulted with the mayor and gotten all the signatures on the letter.
And then Mr. Carr and the mayor, feel free to edit whatever I send over so that you feel it's complete.
We'll flesh it out, absolutely. Make it a strong letter.
Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, any other member from council at this time? Okay, seeing no members from council, let's move on to the township attorney, Jim Lott.
Good evening. We have 2 presentations tonight. One from Township Clerk Susan Favade on the Highlands ordinances that are on for introduction tonight, along with an overview of the referral and exemption process. And then we have a presentation with by the township engineer on the new DEP stormwater ordinance. And I think we should turn it over to Susan.
Great, thank you, Jim. I'm just trying to share my screen. Everyone see the presentation that I have up?
Yes.
Great. Just gonna minimize that. Okay. I'm going to try to be brief tonight. I only have about a dozen slides, so we can go through these fairly quickly, but we do have essentially 3 ordinances on for first reading. There's 2 that are more significant, and then the third is really just a small tweak to the checklist for planning and zoning board applications. So I'm going to just jump right in. I want to very quickly refresh everyone's memory about kind of where we are in the regional master plan conformance process. We spent a lot of time last year talking about this, and then go through the 2 main ordinances that are before you tonight that are on for first reading. So just a sense of where we are. As you all remember, some years ago, the township did spend a few years going through the Highlands Regional Master Plan conformance process. That process was sort of stalled and then restarted back in 2019. Last summer, we did submit to the Highlands Council an official conformance petition. The Highlands Council held a public hearing in September, asked for some changes. After that public hearing, we did submit a revised petition, excuse me, And then they held a second public hearing in early December on the revised petition where they approved it. Basically, then there was a period which Governor Murphy could have vetoed it that ran through the end of the year. And he did not veto the petition, so it became effective December 31st. And so with that approval, the good news is that the township immediately became eligible for funding under Highlands, and we've actually already submitted at least one grant application for implementation measures. There may be others as well. I know the Green Team is working on some initiatives that they could perhaps get some Highlands funding for. But in terms of Highlands review of land use applications, that actually does not become effective until you adopt the referral ordinance. So there has been this period where we're sort of in Highlands, but it's not yet functioned day to day in terms of land use applications. So that's really what we're here tonight to talk about. And mainly it's the referral ordinance as well as the exemption ordinance. So as I said, there's two main ordinances on the table. The first one is the more significant, it's the referral ordinance. And basically the issue is that, the township or any municipality that opts into the Highlands Regional Master Plan conformance is supposed to update the master plan and applicable land use ordinances to be consistent with the regional master plan. And the Highlands Council recognizes that takes time. You can't just sort of flip a switch. And so in that interim period, before you've been able to update your plan and your ordinances, you can adopt the referral ordinance, which essentially provides for the Highlands Council to take on the review of land use applications strictly for Highlands conformance. So what that does require, the referral ordinance requires that anything that is considered not exempt from Highlands review, and we'll go through what those exemptions are. So any non-exempt planning board or board of adjustment applications have to go to Highlands Council to be reviewed before the application can be determined complete and go through the township's review process. That determination of whether something is exempt or not is made at the township level. It'll be made most likely by myself as township planner, as well as Jen Beely as zoning officer. So that is done at the municipal level, but anything that is not exempt then would go up to Highlands, essentially before it starts the township review process. If Highlands has any comments or conditions that they impose as part of their review, those need to be included in the township's own approvals. So it's made a part of the resolution, whether that's the planning board resolution or the board of adjustment. And as I said, this is basically a stopgap measure. It's meant to just provide that level of Highlands review until the township can adopt its own ordinances. And after that point, the Highlands review will actually be made at the township level, sort of locally. So not all actions are subject to the referral ordinance. There are some that are certainly it's applicable to, and one is residential development of 3 or more units on one single lot. And then a series of sort of more significant major developments, developments that result in 1 acre or more of just land disturbance, cumulative surface area, impervious surface area of 1/4 acre or more, and then certain types of development that tends to, as you can see, create greater potential for environmental impacts, things like landfills, waste transfer facilities, industrial treatment facilities, and then potential contaminant sources. So those types of developments sort of automatically go to Highlands. There are other types of developments that are specifically excluded, and these include reconstruction of lawfully existing structures that are destroyed by storm, fires, natural disasters. Upgrades for ADA compliance are excluded, and then certain minor developments that don't reach a certain threshold. So these are sort of agricultural type developments that don't meet a certain threshold, and then construction of fewer than 3 units on septic systems. Those last 2 are not likely to be applicable to Parsippany, but the first 2 could be in theory. And then there are a series of actions which are also exempt from the referral ordinance. And this is where we'll probably be seeing most actions, most proposals for the planning board or board of adjustment. If they're exempt, they'll be in one of these categories. So single family home construction on a lot that is owned by the same owner that was in effect when the Highlands Act was adopted. Single home construction on an existing lot that's under 1 acre or more of impervious coverage or 1/4 acre. And then this third one, I think, is going to become pretty applicable probably in Parsippany. We'll be seeing this exemption a fair amount because so much of the township is built out. So it exempts any kind of reconstruction within 125% of the footprint of legally existing impervious surfaces, as long as you don't increase that impervious coverage by a quarter acre or more. So that's going to really apply to things like existing shopping centers, existing office complexes that have a fair amount of impervious coverage already. As long as new development falls either completely within that existing footprint or doesn't increase it above these thresholds, those will be exempt. And then certain improvements to existing single-family homes, typical of many homeowner improvements, are also exempt. And then lastly, on the exemptions, improvements to houses of worship, schools or hospitals. And then the last two are more applicable to perhaps certain less developed communities like woodland management plans, or this could come into play as trail extension or construction on certain properties. So that's kind of what falls under the referral ordinance. I just wanted to give a sense of how it will work in practice. So basically, an applicant would submit their application package to the township as typical. There will be a new checklist requirement where they'll have to look at whether the application is exempt or not from the Highlands review, and there'll be some materials given to the applicant that allow them to go through that. So they'll essentially make their case if they believe they're exempt. So once that's submitted, as is typical, the township will send that out to board professionals. And then it will also be sent, as long as it's not exempt. If it's not exempt, it'll also be sent up to Highlands Council. If it is exempt, there's no further involvement in terms of Highlands. It just proceeds through the normal course of land use approvals. But if it is not exempt, it goes up to Highlands, and they do not determine that it's complete. The application is not complete until Highlands has had a chance to review it and made a determination about whether it's consistent or inconsistent with the regional master plan. If it's consistent, they basically send it back to the township. It's determined complete. It proceeds through the normal course of review. It may be that Highlands has some comments that could be incorporated in the approval resolution. If it's not consistent, then the applicant's going to have to make some changes based on the Highlands review before it can be determined complete. So that's something that they will have to work through with Highlands, and then once that's been resolved, it would come back to the township, be determined complete, and proceed through the normal course. So that's the referral ordinance. The exemption ordinance basically establishes the process by which the township is going to determine whether something is or is not exempt. And as I said, those determinations are going to be issued by the township planner or the zoning officer after we've been trained by Highlands Council staff. Our understanding in talking with Highlands is that can happen very quickly. It's essentially one staff person. She can do it virtually. So that could be fairly straightforward. Applications have to be considered complete before they will be determined exempt or not. So that'll be sort of part of the process. Typically, applications are determined by the board professional planners to be complete or not. Once that happens, then we'll make the determination on exemption. And then the ordinance lays out, a series of requirements, the fees, the timeframes, the appeal process. And I should say that both the referral ordinance and the exemption ordinance that you have before you are basically based on the model ordinance that comes from Highlands Council. We've worked with Jim Lott and Diane Hickey from Riker Danzig, really going through the ordinance, but it is largely based on the two model ordinances with some modifications for the township.
Susan, while you have that up, can I ask you a question on it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The fees portion, do the township's fees have to go up because there's more effort in it? Or does the Highlands Council also implement a fee?
That's a good question, Council President. I believe, and Jim may correct me if I'm wrong, we may have to look at the ordinance. I think that this fee is meant to capture the extra work in terms of the exemption. I think Highlands review is captured in its own work. I don't know that they impose application fees for our applicants. I think that that's just part of their job description, essentially. When it comes time for us to do the actual Highlands review at a local level, which will be done after we update the master plan and ordinances, there may need to be a fee increase at that point to account for the additional Highlands review. But I think currently this fee that's part of the exemption ordinance should cover that.
Okay, I know we
Because
try
the
to,
review is happening at the Highlands level and not the township level.
okay, I know that we try to base our fees upon the cost, administrative costs
Right.
it takes to process them, and we can justify the fees that we charge. So
Yeah.
if this is an increased workload, then we can increase the fees. Is the reason I asked the
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, and I think if that ends up being the case, then, you know, we can track that. We can, you know, work closely with planning staff downstairs and get a sense of, is it becoming an inordinate amount of time for them? You know, is it causing more time for professionals? And certainly try to recoup that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the final slide, just wanted to give us kind of a bottom line. You know, as I said, the referral ordinance aspect is a temporary measure. It's really just until the township is able to update the ordinances in the master plan, and that might be a year or two. It takes a little bit of time, and we want to make sure that this is put into place immediately so that, you know, these applications can start getting reviewed. But once that does occur, the referral ordinance can be eliminated because that review will be occurring at the municipal level. The exemption ordinance basically creates the exemption mechanism, which will be happening at the township level, whether or not the Highlands review is done at the Highlands Council or in the municipality. So that's going to stay, the exemption ordinance.
So we're not going to wait for our 5-year review of the master plan. We're going to move forward with these now.
Well, yeah, I don't have a time frame necessarily on updating the master plan. I know that, you know,
We try to do it every 5 years.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's been almost a year, or just over a year actually, since the plan was adopted. So it could be 5 years. I mean, the sense that we got from Highlands Council is that they feel the master plan is actually pretty consistent with the Highlands Regional Master Plan. So they don't feel that there's a huge rush because the two documents they're not inconsistent with each other. You know, so until I get a better read on specifically what types of amendments might be required by them, there's not a huge rush on that.
Okay.
And based on our discussions that we've had with Highlands Council, as Susan indicates, the master plan, because it was newly enacted about a year ago, looks like it's in, you know, substantial conformity with the regional master plan. I think the more detailed review that will have to be undertaken will be the rest of the township's development regulations, particularly with, you know, things with respect to steep slopes and impervious cover, right? Stormwater drainage, utility extension. We'll have to take a closer look at those standards as well.
Yeah, it's a good point, Jim. I mean, Highlands Council did look at the master plan as part of the conformance process, and they've opined on the fact that it's essentially consistent, but it's all these other land use ordinances, and it makes sense to wait on those a bit as well because you've got a whole new stormwater management package coming online. So
Correct, right.
This basically just helps us in the interim make sure that someone is reviewing for Highlands, and in the absence of the township until the ordinances are in place, it's Highlands Council.
You know, it bears repeating, as Susan said, that the conformance process does not operate as a super zoning control for the township. You know, the purpose of the referral is to ensure consistency with the development application as it relates to the Highlands Regional Master Plan. The rest of the township's you know, development regulations, whether they be zoning or site plan standards, are all maintained. They all have to be complied with.
Absolutely. They do not supersede local zoning.
Right.
And it's also important to note, this point has been made to me multiple times by Highlands staff, that just because an application has to be reviewed by Highlands Council does not mean that the application is dead or stopped.
Right.
I think the read I got was that has happened exactly once in the entire history of the state of Highlands Review in New Jersey. Basically what they're looking at when they do their review is what is the consistency with the regional master plan, and what is the impact of the project on the applicable resources. So for example, if something is, in Parsippany's case, I think this will be mostly the case, something is previously in a previously developed area, maybe it's near a stream or wetland, but the wetland, it's not pristine. It's perhaps been degraded by past development, they're going to be looking at that in a sense of what is the actual impact on this resource. And, a development, a wetland that's surrounded by development and has been for 50 years is probably going to be looked at a bit differently than Toy Meadows, for example. So it's really just looking at the quality of the resource and the impact of the development on the resource. And generally what they do is they make suggestions for ways to minimize the impact on the resource or otherwise improve the resource. So it's tends to be more of a negotiation is the way that we've been made to understand it.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wildlife preserves.
Mhm.
They have rezoned sections of their property, which is not wetlands. I'll call it the highlands, okay? That could be developed. Which I'm adamantly opposed to because those highlands, quote, highlands, are the buffer for the real wetlands. Would this highlands stuff help us fight wildlife preserve if they try to develop or sell those properties?
So the answer to that is no. The planning board had already granted subdivision and site plan approval for, I think it's a 5-lot subdivision. And that process is, has already been approved and their subdivision plan has already been perfected. If there are other development applications submitted by wildlife for other areas, well, then those are potentially exposed to Highlands review, provided that they file their application after we adopt the referral ordinance.
Right. Any application that has been filed and determined complete prior to the adoption of these ordinances is not subject to Highlands review. It's considered grandfathered.
It's grandfathered, yeah.
Grandfathered.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. So that's all I had. If there are any other questions, and Jim, if you want to jump in if there's anything specific.
No, I think that's all I have, Susan. I don't know if council or members of the public have additional questions.
I'm all for giving this kind of thing to subject matter experts who provide expert advice back to us to make decisions. I think that's great.
Jim, do you want to open up to members of the public for any questions just on this presentation?
I think that'd be appropriate, subject to what the council president wants to do.
Council President, what would you like to do?
That's fine. Open it up.
Okay. So what we'll do is right now, we're going to briefly just open up. It's not going to be a public portion, but just some questions specifically directed to this presentation. Let me just look to see if there are any participants. Okay, I don't see any participants. So, hold on, any participants? Okay, Nick Homiak, let's unmute. Nick, you there? Nick. Okay, Nick, you're unmuted at this time. Okay, I'll give you about 30 seconds. Nick? Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right, we can hear you now, Nick.
I don't know what I did wrong that time.
All right, you can only ask any questions directed at this presentation, specifically only for questions.
Yes, sir. There's a thing called the Highlands Council call-up. Now, I read it, but I guess because I'm not a lawyer or whatever, I'm a little mixed up. It's part of the referral ordinance, but for example, if we have a question during this time and we want to summon the Highlands Council, could any member of the planning board, for example, and to check dates, and not only dates that the project, but the dates of the permits for the project, to see whether they have to, in fact, comply to the Highlands conformance. If that makes any sense, I hope it does. And what else can I say here? Oh, yeah, and the education for the planning and zoning boards, I would hope that more than one member, I would hope that all the members and maybe even council can participate in this education process. And I see here the fee in the referral ordinance is only $35. They charge me more than that to replace the shed a contractor destroyed on my property that I thought I was grandfathered in. That shed was probably there since 1940, but I had to pay another $50 to get the same shed replaced. And here you have these developers who are only paying $35. That's a little strange. And the comment about Troy Meadows was trying to save themselves from these pipelines threatening their possibility of eminent domain. So in order to protect themselves, if they were subject to eminent domain, to get more money. But according to Len Fariello, they don't want to develop these lots. This is like a protection against eminent domain, against these ridiculous pipelines. And the fact that Parsippany is 100% the planning board, so you have to accept that. And whichever left the Parsippany, if we could have the highest standards possible through our own zoning and Highlands, and hallelujah. So if you can answer my question about the Highlands Council call-up, if that can be explained. And does that remain, or does it go away after complete conformance is reached?
So the call-up process allows the Highlands Council to exercise oversight over the exemption decisions made by township officials. It's a check to make sure that the township is properly administering the exemption process. The call-up process remains after the township is deemed to be in full conformance with the Highlands process. So that process of oversight for exemption will continue, even outside the period which they're operate.
Correct. And just to answer a couple of your other questions on the fees that are in these ordinances are in addition to all other development fees. So there are a host of fees developers are subject to, which are all laid out in the checklist. So they'll still have all of those, and then they'll also have the additional Highlands fee.
And as the council president, I'm sorry, as the council president indicated, the township's policy is that we try to recover all of our costs associated with any additional review. Based on some analysis that we had done preliminarily, we thought $35 would cover the review as it relates to Highlands exemption.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then I think the last question you had was on training. And I just want to clarify, the training is for basically staff and professionals to make that exemption determination in office before it ever gets to the planning and zoning board. So there is no role for either of those boards in making the exemption determinations. It's essentially made by either staff or professionals.
That would be you, Susan?
It's the same for completeness determination with land use applications. And I think you were asking, yes, it would be the township planner, which is currently me, in coordination with Jennifer Veely, and we'll both be trained.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Nick, and thank you, Susan, for the presentation. At this time, Jim, I think we want to move on to the stormwater presentation by Justin Lizza.
Yes.
Okay,
This is where it gets really exciting. We'll turn it over to the township engineer who will explain the new regulatory changes in terms of DEP required stormwater management.
Really think this is exciting, huh, Jim?
Yes.
Good. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to discuss the stormwater changes to our ordinance. The changes are required to bring our ordinances into compliance with the NJDEP amended stormwater management rules. The DEP's amendments focus on incorporating non-structural stormwater management strategies, which are there to achieve stormwater recharge, runoff quality, and runoff quantity standards. And it's also trying to put in more requirements for total suspended solids, the TSS removals, more so from any hard surfaces that have motor vehicles. The method for achieving these through the new regulations is really through what they're calling green infrastructure. So this is essentially a way to manage the stormwater as close to the source as possible. And this is going to be done through infiltration, trying to filter the runoff through soils and vegetation, and then storing some of the stormwater on site for eventual reuse. The goal is really to mimic the natural hydrologic conditions that exist prior to development, where stormwater is naturally just either absorbed into the ground or the runoff sort of migrates through surface vegetation before it gets either absorbed into the ground or runs off into various water bodies. So the fundamental difference in the rules really now is to infiltrate and treat the water on site in close proximity to where it falls, similar to that natural cycle. So in the past, developers, when they prepared their plans, they were able to collect the stormwater from the site and they would put it all into one detention basin or several basins, but usually one large detention basin somewhere on the site at the lower end, where it's held and released at some controlled rate. Well, with the new regs, you really can't do that now. What they're looking at doing is requiring multiple stormwater management measures to sort of mirror the site's pre-development cycle. Drainage areas for these devices are going to be limited to, in some cases, 1 or 2.5 acres. So on these large sites that are, 10, 15, 20 acre development, there's going to be multiple devices or measures in place throughout the site to collect this water and treat it. And the thought behind that is really just to disconnect some of these vast impervious surfaces, which, by doing so, they're creating green spaces and mitigating some of that heat island effect through the vast parking lots and whatnot. So presently, the stormwater management section in our ordinance, it's really not easy to find. It's sort of tucked away in the land use section 225-64L. So in order to make it more visible and easier to find, we're looking at creating a new section for the stormwater requirements, which would be Article 16, and that'll be entitled Stormwater Management Controls. And it'll start, if you look in the order at section 225-94, where we'll pick up on. We use the NJDEP stormwater model ordinance as a base, and then we tried to incorporate some of the New Jersey future and Highland ordinances where we thought that they were applicable. So some of the things I'll highlight will be more or less the more significant changes to the ordinances that exist and how the new ones that are proposed will change it. And the first most notable one is for the definition of a major development. Presently, it's really defined as a development that ultimately disturbs 1 or more acres of land, which isn't very encompassing. So what we're doing is we're looking to expand it to also include the creation of 1.25 acre or more of regulated impervious surfaces, the creation of 1/4 acre or more of regulated motor vehicle surfaces, and a combination of the two if their total area is 1/4 acre or more.
And just to take a step back, there are new definitions for impervious surfaces and this regulated motor vehicle surface. And what they're trying to do is distinguish between surfaces that vehicles park on, where you're going to have some of the hydrocarbons and other heavy metals and fluids that come off those sites, versus say a roof area or a patio or some other impervious surface that is much cleaner. So there's different requirements and treatment that's necessary for the motor vehicle surfaces than just all impervious surface. This change is also going to significantly tighten up the stormwater regulations because it's going to identify more projects as major developments, which now will make them incorporate this green infrastructure and follow the best management practices manual more closely. Presently, any project or development that does not meet this criteria as a major development doesn't need to provide any stormwater management at all. So it's a big loophole in the present ordinances. It's a big concern for us because there is a huge volume of stormwater runoff right now being released from these sites that's just untreated and uncontrolled in any way. So it's an issue that we wanted to close that gap. And in doing so, what we're looking to do is create a new requirement for minor developments. And that'll be for any project that increases impervious areas by more than 400 square feet or disturbs over 5,000 square feet of land. So these minor developments will require the incorporation of some green infrastructure improvements. We're going to be looking to have them infiltrate the runoff and provide some method of water quality improvements to help mitigate those effects. Some of the other notable changes will be to ensure long-term functionality of the stormwater measures that are being implemented. This is going to be achieved by requiring maintenance plans and outlining specific preventive maintenance tasks to each of the specific stormwater management measures. And plans will need to be recorded then at the Morris County Clerk's office. So there's going to be a document that will run with that land regardless of who may own it or if there's a transfer of that type. This requirement not only mandates regular inspections and corrective actions of the plan, but also requires them to submit their inspection reports and logs to my office annually. So not only is there an obligation on their end, but there's a reporting component of that, which will come to us. So we'll make sure that all these sites are being inspected, the corrective maintenance is being done. We can follow up if we see that other corrective actions will be. So that's in a nutshell the bulk of the stormwater requirements and some of the changes. These proposed ordinance changes are going to incorporate all the requirements of the DEP regulations as well as New Jersey Future and some of the Highland Ordinance suggestions or requirements. So we believe these changes are a step in the right direction in preventing the pollution and will go a long way to reducing flooding.
Okay.
Sorry, Jim.
Thank you, Justin, for the presentation. Any questions by council or the administration?
Khaled, I'd just like to add, all my kidding aside about stormwater management, as Justin just outlined for us, this is a significant improvement in both environmental quality as well as site planning technique. And I think that Justin and his consultants have struck the appropriate balance here between practicality and cost, and trying to close some of the large loopholes that we currently have in the existing township ordinance, particularly with respect to small development projects and even those larger development projects that basically escaped any stormwater management review because they disturb less than an acre. So this is a significant improvement, and we're ready to have the ordinance for introduction at the next meeting. We made a couple of tweaks in the last couple of days to address some of the technical issues between township engineering and the township's consultants. But we're certainly going to meet the DEP minimum requirements, and as was outlined by Justin, we also exceed the requirements in several important areas, including small projects.
Thank you, Jim.
I have a question.
Council President?
Lake Parsippany. We have storm drains draining into a detention basin in Lake Parsippany that we have an obligation to maintain and dredge. Will that agreement or anything regarding Lake Parsippany be affected by this?
Well, the ordinances don't, I'm sorry, Jim, if you want to.
No, it doesn't. It will not affect any of our pre-existing obligations with respect to maintenance of the Lake Parsippany Basin. We're aware of that. We'll still have to maintain that basin. Any new development applications that are going to discharge more water to that basin that meet the thresholds will have to be reviewed either by the board having jurisdiction or by the township engineer's office. I don't know, what additional measures may be needed to make that basin compliant. I'll have to defer to Justin on that.
Well, one of the claims from several of the officers over the years from the LPPOA has been that 287 drains water, untreated water, into that lake, and the state has done nothing to correct that. That claim, I've heard that for many years. I didn't know how we should, if we could address it.
Right. So, Council President, I'm aware of that. I've seen that in the agreements. I think that's probably a technical discussion between Justin and I, but I think that agreement goes back many, many years between the township and DOT and the Lake Association. But, I think you're correct in your statement that there is stormwater from the state highway system that does end up in that basin that the township maintains.
Jim, you're right. The water does come off of actually Route 80, not 287, into the lake. The latest improvements that they made about 8 years ago on the 287 Route 80 entrance ramps did require them to put manufactured treatment devices in to help filter some of the water and pollutants out of it before it discharges into the lake. So there are some measures in place with that recent construction, but a lot of it does run from the highways through our storm system into the lake. We do regularly maintain the sediment traps in the lakes, or in the lake. There are actually 4 or 5 of them we maintain. And matter of fact, we have a contractor working on it now. So we usually dredge those out every year, every other year, depending on the level of silt that builds up in there.
Justin, it'd be interesting to see whether or not DOT is maintaining its mechanical separators in the system.
We could try to find out.
Right, I know.
Okay, any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none, Jim, thank you, and Justin, thank you for the presentation.
Can I just, this is Janice McCarthy, Council President. I just want to, in line with this discussion related to the stormwater management, there's anticipated replanting of trees on Intervale Road. And the Environmental Committee has recommended, since there appears there may have been some damage to the site, and this is a steep slope that drains into an aquifer, that the Highlands Council is brought in to evaluate first the stormwater management, and then give advice on what should be planted in that area before any work is done by the towns, either Parsippany or Mountain Lakes or JCP&L. Just, given that this is there was significant damage to this environmentally sensitive area. And I think they disregarded during the development, I think they disregarded some stormwater protocols. So this just could be an opportunity to improve the conditions there on the site. And I understand there might be some grants available for any work or any remediation on that slope. So can we agree that the committee can contact the Highlands and request their input or help before any work is done on the site?
No, the committee won't be doing that. The township will be doing that. The committee, however, is going to be needed continually for their advice and counsel on this. And just understand that right now, at least the way we're looking at it from the township, we probably don't need to put any township money from either Mountain Lakes or Parsippany to replace these trees. Right now, we're meeting with JCP&L. We have a meeting scheduled later this week. I think it's Thursday with JCP&L and with RD Realty Management. And it looks like, and by the way, on top of RD Realty Management, Whole Foods themselves has stepped forward and wants to help financially with the restoration of that area. So we'll keep you posted on that. Yeah, I'm myself and Mayor Tom Maynard of Mountain Lakes is we're very upset with what happened there, and we're working hard to get people to correct it. Including the Highlands is something we will do.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, council member.
I just want to step back to Council President comment on lakes. And Susan Favati can speak more to this, but I believe that there may be some Highlands planning grant money available that would allow the township to work with the various lake communities on some strategies to improve water quality at the lakes. And I know that Susan has, already taken a preliminary look at that.
That would be great.
Yeah, there's a host of funding available by Highlands, and it's all outlined in their approval of the conformance petition of kind of implementation actions. And one of those that I think is one of the township's priorities is a water use and conservation plan. And that would look at things like, aquifer recharge and groundwater. There's also funding for some stormwater work, which we can work with Justin on once you've adopted the new regs. And then a little bit in the future, I think probably not this year in terms of funding, but maybe a subsequent year, there is specific lake funding, lake watershed management funding that they're very open to. And that could be identified specifically in some of these earlier planning efforts as a next step. Then Highlands will fund that as well. So there's
We have 5 lakes in Rainbow Lakes. We have Intervale Lake, Lake Parsippany.
Yep.
I'm still looking for Lake Hiawatha.
You and me both.
You and me both.
Yep.
Right. So I
As a
don't know.
proud Lake Hiawatha resident, I take serious offense to that.
It
I
was
don't know
there.
whether-
We swam in it.
I don't know whether there are any members of the public or council that have additional questions on.
Okay, seeing or hearing no questions or comments from council members or administration. All right, so at this time, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Susan, for the presentations. We're gonna move
How
along.
about the public?
We want to open up to the public? Sure. Council President, is that something you'd want to do, Council President?
We may as well, just to be consistent.
Agreed. All right, so seeing here, let's see, who do we have? Looks like we have Nick. Let's go ahead and unmute Nick, please. Nick, you there?
Yes.
Nick, you only get one question. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Not for anything, but I would say the most important part of stormwater management in our day and age is street cleaning and ordinance enforcement for businesses who should be keeping their immediate premises clean. All that washes down the storm drain, down the Rockaway, into the Troy Meadows. So street cleaning has to be part of any serious stormwater management process. And the down there on Intervale Road, they call it open space, and I've always said it's not open space. And if Parsippany knew what they were doing at the time, it would have been a non-structural stormwater study, and they could have used the Rutgers stormwater study that identified that area. It should have never been developed and everything, the groundwater recharge and all that other stuff. And I get the impression Parsippany's previous stormwater rules, or if they couldn't even be found, they're under utility or something, but they were even more substandard than NJDEP rules, and that's pretty telling a tale. Shows how much the developers were running over this town. And I would hope that there's a groundwater recharge requirement that is also associated with the storm water. They do have New Jersey regulations for all of this. So hopefully all of this will be in the new Parsippany, future.
Okay, Nick, is that all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Now let's go ahead and close that out because there are no other participants here. And seeing that there are no questions by the council or administration, again, I'd like to thank Jim, Susan, and Justin for the presentations. And we're now going to go ahead and move on to the business administrator, Fred Carr.
Thank you, Khaled. So following the mayor's lead, I have no comments. I've opened this up for call to talk and answer questions with regards to COVID-19.
Okay, I asked for some discussion on this because it's my understanding that cases in Morris County are extremely high over the past 2 weeks, and also that the test positivity rates are high. And there's concern that the cases have been undercounted. So is there any information on why the cases are so high in Morris County as opposed to the surrounding counties of Sussex and Passaic? And what's being done to bring it under control?
Hi, everyone. It's Carlo Delizia. Everyone hear me?
Yes, yes, we hear you, Carlo. How are you?
Okay, good. Just real quick, may I just go over just a brief narrative before we start answering questions? I feel that at least it's imperative that I provide some numbers to the governing body, since I think it's been a routine report, whether I'm present or not. So just a brief overview that on Thursday, March 4th, marked the 1-year anniversary of the first confirmed case in New Jersey. On March 9th, Governor Murphy declared a state of emergency in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. And on March 11th, 2020, COVID-19 was declared a pandemic by the WHO. Again, we need to continue to preach everyone masking, social distancing, hand washing, even after getting vaccinated. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We're getting there. We just have to be patient and continue to do what we need to do as a community to try to alleviate this dreadful disease. Just from a total standpoint, as of this afternoon, we have the Township of Parsippany has 3,620 lab confirmed cases. There are 3,607 closed cases, and with 13 that are still open. We have reviewed, since the beginning of the pandemic, 28,925 laboratory reports. Those are the negative reports. And unfortunately, our death toll is up to 102 lab confirmed fatalities. In reference to Council Person McCarthy's request or inquiry regarding positive cases, I'm actually looking at the activity timeline level, and that's on the COVID-19 information hub. The Morris County is located in the northwest, and I think, yeah, it is in the northwest region, and it is high. It has been high pretty much since November of last year, with the exception of a 1 week decline on February 20th. And most likely, and this is anecdotal, most likely that was attributed to, I think, the 3 or 4 snowstorms that we had, where people were not going out and getting tested. But to answer your question, are we high? We being the Northwest region is high. It's not very high. That actually has not been since March 28th of last year. And that lasted for that full month. That was when the hospitalizations were through the roof, and there was a lot of parameters set in place with closures of pretty much everything, including restaurants. I hope I answered your question. That actually is on the COVID-19 portal. A quick way to navigate through that is just under the search engine, just indicate CALI score, CALI score. And the State Department of Health will provide you with a weekly update on the positivity rates in the regions.
Well, I'm referring, Carlo, to the New York Times article last week that said that Morris County cases are at an extremely high level over the past 2 weeks.
That would be new to me. I don't know how to answer that other than I'm looking at the data right here that everyone is able to look at. I wish I knew I'd be able to answer that better, but the rates are high. I don't know how they're defining high, but ultimately it has been high, and we need to continue to be diligent. And more importantly, once the vaccine is readily available, to continue to get more people vaccinated. I don't have the most recent numbers, but we're probably pushing close to 30% of our population as a county vaccinated, or at least receiving their first dose. So it's a step in the right direction. We're not done yet. We have a long way to go. And we as a community are looking forward to vaccinating our members as well once vaccine is readily available. But right now, it's just a waiting mentality, and we just have to continue to be patient with making sure that people have access to vaccine, and that's just going to take time. Yeah, but I wouldn't be able to elaborate on the NYT article. I haven't read it, so.
Councilwoman Grignani, Carlo. What are the numbers in Parsippany per se?
We don't have numbers at the municipal level. It's by regional level.
Well, when we had previously, Mayor Soriano would give us numbers.
Oh, yes, I just gave them to you. So you're talking about total positive cases. Yes, so we're at 3,620 positive cases since the beginning of the pandemic.
The mayor was giving us biweekly numbers. And the last number, I believe, was last meeting. We didn't have any numbers, but the meeting before that, I believe it was in the 130 range of positive cases. Numbers specifically for Parsippany.
Councilwoman, you're talking about the numbers that I'm giving you right now are the positive cases. I'm not familiar with how the mayor is breaking down the numbers to the governing body, but if you're really looking at I think the last council report was on March 2nd. There was 3,391 cases.
No.
No?
No, that's not what I'm asking. You're giving me total numbers. We were receiving 110, 130, 160 cases, individual numbers, not county or total numbers in Parsippany. That's no longer available to us. Is that what you're telling me?
No, again, I would need to check with the mayor and how he's breaking down those numbers, but
I think the only way I was breaking them down, Carlo,
Yes, Mayor.
For this past, I believe it was Monday.
Okay.
The total cases in Parsippany were 3,606, and that was an increase of 104 over last week.
Okay, so what you're
104
doing,
is
yes.
the number that
okay.
Loretta is asking about, and
Okay.
rightfully so.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
we're kind of reporting the same, but the mayor is actually even breaking it down a little bit further on a weekly basis.
Yes, he was.
So,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
so my
Thank
my
you.
my apologies.
Well,
Okay,
you know,
that's right.
and to Carlo's defense, he's looking at the macro numbers, and these numbers
Right.
are big and change for him. I have the luxury of being able to focus on the smaller numbers, only doing this weekly.
Right.
He's absorbing this every minute of his life now.
Yeah. I
I
can
have a
imagine.
question. Is there any evidence of any of the variants in the cases that we have in town?
In town, I wouldn't be able to answer that. I do know that if there are current vaccine breakthroughs, we need to submit those labs down to the FEL to make sure or provide some sort of certainty that there aren't any variants in there. But are there variants in the state of New Jersey? Yes. Within the county, I need to look into that, and that's something I can get back to you. That actually might even be on the hub as well. It's just there's just an unbelievable amount of information on the hub, and it is a great resource, but you just have to you really have to take the time to navigate through it. But the variants are in the state. I just don't know if they are at our level. So
Another question, please. For seniors who are not able to navigate, whether they go to CVS or Rockaway, is there any opportunity through the state to provide a mobile unit that we could place maybe by the senior center, that we can have the town bus bring our seniors to receive their inoculations? Has that come up at all in any of the discussions to assist our seniors, or no?
we do have plans to have a mass vaccination clinic for our residents. And we do have locations strategically, specifically 2 sites in question that we're going to, at the very least, focus on our main site. And if we need to expand to a second site, but for us to go to a physically, and I think maybe you're asking if we're going to a, such as like a Brookside or a Baldwin Oaks to provide that type of service. There are no tentative plans to do that. We will be focusing on a mass vaccination site within the township of Parsippany, and it's all predicated upon vaccine availability. We have already spoken to the social services coordinator at the senior handicapped and independent living apartments to provide her with guidance and options that they can do internally.
And would we be providing transportation for the individuals?
Logistical part we can work out, but we would have to, and it's more of a standing order issue in providing the mobile type of service as compared to the freestanding building type.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
How many people over the age of 65 have been vaccinated in Parsippany?
I would love to know that. I really would. I wish I could have that information. That might be the $1 million question. I really don't know, Councilwoman. The breakdown by county is on the portal to take a look at it, and just bear with me. I'm going to have to get back to you, and I really don't even know if I'm going to be able to give you a definitive answer on that. So my apologies. This is going to take a little bit more research.
You know, what I don't
Okay.
understand is that this was the 80% of the deaths occur in 65 and older. And they keep adding groups to this prior, and we can't seem to manage to vaccinate the most vulnerable group in our community. And there's no
yeah.
outreach to get that done. I just don't understand that, so.
And I echo your frustration too. But ultimately it is there's just not enough vaccine available for everybody. Technically, I think as of the other day, a little over half of the population qualifies, to get vaccinated. But, federally, we're only allocated about 70,000 doses a week. I know they are ramping that up at the federal level. But, we all have to be mindful that this is a global issue. And, in a perfect world, I would love to run our own clinics, and we will. But it's just a matter of time right now. We're trying to continue to preach patience. And then I understand people's, the residents' frustrations. I just hope that they're able at the very least to be able to register, if it's not them, to have a family member to get them on the on the COVID website to register, as well as the Atlantic Health, even CVS. And I know the CVS and Walgreens vaccine initiative, again, with them, they're not really getting a lot of vaccine. It's going to take some resiliency amongst family members to assist. And obviously there is a hotline, and I'm pretty sure, Mayor, that it's all on our website too, regarding residents that do not have internet access. It's an 855 number that residents will be able to. I mean, we field, probably about 150 calls a day from residents regarding guidance, and we do our best. We will address it, one resident at a time, and we will continue to do that until everybody that wants to get vaccinated will get vaccinated.
Well, you're saying then that when they call the town or they call the health department, that you provide some assistance in getting them scheduled for an appointment? Or give them
We only provide them with the appropriate phone numbers and websites. But again, if they don't have internet access, what we usually do is, ask them if they have a family member that has internet access and have them call us. And then we can give them the appropriate websites, and which are also on our town website as well. And the appropriate call numbers, the phone numbers that the state will be able to assist.
Okay, so there's no assistance provided to them other than giving them the phone numbers and sites, right?
Correct. I hope I would have better news to say. We're running our clinics, and please, by all means, everybody call and we can register them for our clinic. But, I just don't know when that's going to be. I wish sooner than later, but unfortunately, it's just a waiting game now.
Okay, any other questions from council or administration? Okay, seeing none, thank you, Carlo, for your time. You have a great night.
Good seeing everyone. Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to the Township Clerk. I just have a very quick report regarding elections. As everyone knows, there's going to be an upcoming primary election. With that being said, we have petitions that will be due. Petitions are due to the municipal clerk's office by April 5th, no later than 4 p.m. And the petitions for mayor, council, or county committee will all be due at that time. You can go to the county clerk's website to see the required number of signatures for either council or mayor, or for county committee. Or if you have questions, you can either contact my office or the county clerk's office. That concludes my report. Moving along to the township offices and committee reports. Do we have anything? Okay, seeing none. Moving along to correspondence. There are no correspondence. So going over to bids taken March 10th, 2021, the 2021 road resurfacing curb and sidewalk program. March 11th, 2021, repair of 7 Parsippany Troy Hills bridges. March 18th, 2021, Baldwin Road sanitary sewer modifications. To be taken March 17th, 2021, furnishing and installing 2 self-standing waterproof Alutux Pergo lower systems for Knoll West Country Club. March 19th, 2021, 1 new 2021 Type 1 Ford F-450 4x4 ambulance for the EMS squad. 414, April 14th, 2021, Smith Baldwin House Phase 3 rehabilitation. Quotation, proposals, qualifications, none. Moving on to the public hearing. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion to open up the public hearing, please.
Motion, second,
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes,
Ms. McCarthy? Ms. McCarthy?
Yes,
Ms. Peterson?
yes.
Mr. DePiero?
yes,
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to go ahead and open the floor. I'm going to go ahead and look at participants. For the participants, please remember, you will have 5 minutes to have any questions, comments for the administration or the council. It will not be a question and answer session. You will ask your questions or make your comments. You will then be muted, and then the council or administration will have an opportunity to respond. With that being said, let's go ahead and open up the floor. We have a Mr. Bob Venezia. Let's go ahead and unmute Bob, please.
Hi, Bob Venezia, 102 Brooklawn Drive. I'd like to follow up on a question that I asked at the last council meeting, and that is, where do Parsippany's water and sewer rates rank among the 39 municipalities in Morris County? When the discussions about the utility rate increases were taking place, the council and the administration were quick to point out that Parsippany's rates were among the lowest in the county. Now that the 39% increases have been passed, I believe that residents have a right to know where our rates stand now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob, for your question. Let's go ahead and mute Bob. Turn this over to the council and administration.
So Bob, this is Fred. So during our rate presentation, so the proposed 220 residential water rate for, when we implemented the 39% left us at the third lowest water rate in the county, and the sewer rate was in the lower half of the other municipalities sampled. We did a sampling of them, but we didn't do all of Morris County.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Moving along, I see that we have a Nick Homiak with his hand up. Let's go ahead and unmute Nick.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, Nick, how you doing?
Okay. In all due respects to the Seek Awareness Month, April is Parkinson's Awareness Month. And I recently heard an interview from 3 doctors who published a book in March of 2020, and it's called Ending Parkinson's. And they're finding out through decades of study that this disease is related to environmental factors such as TCE, which is the chemical for cleaning circuit boards and various things, and believe it or not, to pesticides. So we do, I know for a fact they were using pesticides at an old golf, and hopefully this golf-friendly thing will end all that. To get back to the Highlands, there's a list of major and minor potential contamination sources. And number 11, believe it or not, is, I believe it's minor, is a graveyard. But I don't see golf courses. And in the lecture on Parkinson's disease, there was a section, and it's in the book, on golf courses and the relation to Parkinson's disease. So I found that very interesting, and anything that can be done to ban, restrict, never use again any of these chemicals like Roundup or anything in the municipal workforce should be seriously considered. What else? I notice when I walk around in the winter, it's the same thing, and I've been bringing this up for years. When you pass Knoll Road, past Knoll Gardens, that parallels the golf course, a lot of that litter that gets into our public spaces is coming from those dumpsters, and the dumpsters need enclosures. And the practices, not only at Knoll Gardens, but all apartment complexes are notorious. They have very poor or non-existent source separation disciplines, and there is no enforcement. No one enforces these rules. It's all, a fantasy. Everybody's doing the right thing and nobody's doing the right thing. So somebody should look into those particular dumpsters are exposed to the open spaces, and especially when there's snow plows and everything, people throw the trash up on the snow piles. Then when the wind comes, and Knoll Road is mostly littered from those dumpsters in that area. And I think something should be done. Recently, the town of Montclair presented and passed a leaf blowing ordinance. And from living in Lake Hiawatha, I can tell you, the leaf blowers, they disturb the peace, they pollute the air, and it's all for the outside carpet, a lawn which serves very little, if any, ecological services to the environment. And it's in fact a form of impervious surface. But when it comes to the leaf blower phenomenon, the laissez-faire that allowed all that out, I think that maybe Parsippany should take a look at the Montclair ordinance and see whether it's worth adopting. And I'm sure they consider the landscaper business in all this, but what the landscaper business doesn't consider is how he affects the peace of neighborhoods in certain times of the day. And sometimes it's unrelenting. You get one, then another. It's like, you got to go inside and turn up your TV set. What if you don't have a TV? Ooh, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Let's go ahead and mute Nick. Doesn't look like we have any other participants. Let's just take one last look. Okay, seeing no other participants, can I please entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
Take a motion.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, moving along to ordinances. Introduction. Ordinance 2021-05, creating new Chapter 205 Highlands Regional Master Plan Requirements, Article 1, Highlands Referral Ordinance. Ordinance 2021-06, amending Chapter 205 Highlands Regional Master Plan Requirements to establish the Highlands Area Exemption Ordinance. Ordinance 2021-07, amending 225 Attachment 1, Application Checklist, General Requirements for All Development Applications, Appendix A. Be it resolved that the above ordinances be introduced, read by title, and passed on first reading at a meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills held on March 16, 2021, and that said ordinances be further considered for second reading and final passage at the meeting to be held on April 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. prevailing time or soon thereafter, as the matter may be reached at the municipal building in said township, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the said ordinances. Be further resolved that the clerk be authorized and directed to advertise said ordinances with the notices of introduction thereof being published in the official newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the above resolution for ordinance 2021-05.
Motion.
Second, McCarthy.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the above resolution for ordinance 2021-06?
Motion.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, and can I get a last motion to approve the above resolution for ordinance 2021-07, please?
Motion, McCarthy.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Mr. Carriffy. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
yes,
Okay, motion passes. Moving along to the second reading and public hearing. Ordinance 2021-02, approving an easement agreement with Foxfront Developers LLC to allow the township to own, operate, and maintain certain sewer line facilities and a sewer pump station. Ordinance 2021-03, amending Chapter 405, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 23, Stop Intersections of the Township Code. Ordinance 2021-04, approving an easement agreement with Pudding Stone Developers LLC to allow the township to own, operate, and maintain certain sewer line facilities and a sewer pump station. The notices for ordinance number 2021-02 and 2021-04 were published in the Daily Record. 2021-02 through 2021-04 were published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township Parsippany Troy Hills, on February 22nd, 2021. The notice for ordinances 2020-03 was published in Daily Record on February 24th, 2021. The ordinances were introduced at February 16th, 2021 regular meeting. Motion to accept ordinances 2021-02, 2021-03, and 2021-04 be heard in their second and final reading.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
yes,
Ms. McCarthy,
yes,
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
yes,
Okay, we have a public hearing. The motion to open the public hearing for ordinances 2021-02, 2021-03, and 2021-04.
motion,
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Carriffy. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
yes,
Ms. McCarthy,
yes,
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
yes.
Okay, at this time, the floor is open for residents on only those three ordinances. Let's go ahead and take a look to see if we have anyone that would like to comment. Okay, looks like Nick Homiak's hand is up, so let's go ahead and unmute Nick, please.
Yes, the question would be, this easement, why wasn't it there to begin with if it's a public water source? And does the town now own it? And did they get it with, did they have to pay for it, or was it eminent domain? I guess that's the only curiosity I have about this.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Let's go ahead and mute Nick. Turn that over to the administration or council. Okay,
The Council President?
go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, the developer was required to make dedication, and he's offered dedication. We have to accept the dedication by ordinance. And once we accept the dedication by ordinance, the township has the responsibility to own and operate the sewer lines in those designated easement areas.
Thank you, Jim. Okay, seeing no one else here, any questions on those three ordinances? Let's go ahead. I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2021-02, 2021-03, and 2021-04, please.
motion, Grignani,
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Mr. Carriffy. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
yes,
Mr. McCarthy,
yes,
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes,
Okay, whereas the above ordinances were read in title on second reading and a hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinances be passed on final reading and that notices of final passage of said ordinances be published in the newspaper according to law. Can I please have a motion to approve the above resolution for ordinance number 2021-02?
Motion.
second,
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
yes,
McCarthy,
yes,
Ms. Peterson, Mr. DePiero.
yes,
And passes. Can I have a motion to approve resolution for the above ordinance of 2021-03, please?
motion,
Motion. Second.
Motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
yes,
Ms. McCarthy,
yes,
Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
yes,
Motion passes. Could I please have a motion to approve the resolution for the above ordinance of 2021-04, please?
Motion.
motion, second, Grignani,
All right, motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the non-consent agenda. Resolutions R 2021-58, authorizing the release of $200,000 from the Township's Affordable Housing Trust Fund to community options for purchase of a group home for the special needs population located at 12 Ferncliff Road. Motion to approve the above resolution, please.
Motion, Grignani.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call.
I have a question first.
Absolutely. Discussion. Go ahead, Council President.
For both of these resolutions, 58 and 59, the dollar amount is $200,000. As I understand, it's $50,000 per bedroom. So are we saying these are both 4-bedroom residents? And are these existing homes or new homes?
If I may answer the question on 2021-59, that happens to be my backyard neighbor. And yes, it is a 4-bedroom home.
And it's existing.
Yes, it is. It has
All right,
been on the market. It's been on the market for close to 2-3 years.
I'm assuming the other one is the same answer. Someone else knows. So they're both 4-bedroom units and they're probably existing structures. Jim?
I believe that's the case, Council President. I'd have to go back and take a look at the recommendation. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe they're both existing homes and they were both 4-bedroom units.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we had a motion by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Resolution 2021-59, authorizing the release of $200,000 from the Township's Affordable Housing Trust Fund to community options for purchase of a group home for the special needs population located at 270 North Beverwick Road. Can I please have a motion to approve the above resolution?
Motion, Grignani.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr.
I
Carriffy?
have a question for Mr. Lot. Do we get low-income housing credits for these?
Yes, I spoke to Mr. Stikus about this, and both of these project sites were in the affordable plan, so we'll get credit for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. So we have a motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy? Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
And Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Motion passes. We are moving on to the consent agenda. Be it resolved, all items listed with an asterisk are routine and non-controversial by the Township Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Before I make a motion in a second, do we have any discussion on any of these resolutions?
Yeah, on the resolution 2021-40, cancellation of the unexpended capital. Did we ever find out, were notes issued for this project? Were notes payable issued?
Juan, are you out there or did you get bumped again?
Juan was unable to attend tonight.
That's right, I remember that now. So what we have here, Councilwoman, if everybody can hear me, is that the ordinance 2019-11 was partially funded in 2019 in the amount of $6 million for various capital improvements. The appropriation for the cricket field included improvements to other facilities. During the refinancing that we did last November, the above amount was refunded and made part of a new issuance for $7 million. Again, this amount was issued for various capital improvements or the original funding. The intent of this conversation is that we're not using this allocation and should therefore not have it on the books. Because it has a positive impact, as I mentioned before, on our debt service ratio in the town. And then, you know, in order to prevent over expenditures, you don't leave things in ordinances that you're not going to use. We're not going to use the $3.5 million this year for its originally intended purpose. As the mayor indicated previously, our intent is to build this multi-purpose / cricket facility on the COSID property, which we are currently in negotiation with the last owner to try to do that and make it first rate.
Did you see open space $50,000 on this?
$50,000? I'm sorry, I missed half of your question there. I'm sorry.
Well, there's a note that there was a down payment of $50,000 from the open space fund.
For the cricket field?
Oh, well, yeah. There's a note, we approved it in 2019. It said no down payment from open space, $50,000.
That's probably just part of we were required to have a down payment for all notes that we do for open space. It's $50,000 per million, 5%. It's not uncommon. I don't know if it's $50,000 for this specific note, okay, for this cricket field, or for the general $11 million bond that we started this whole conversation.
No, it's specifically for the cricket field.
If we cancel it, then it goes back to then we don't use it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question on number 19, the last line there. Is there a world in which we would consider paying out all legal fees at the same time when all parties' interests have been settled, rather than one at a time over time as the resolutions are presented to us? I guess that's a question for Jim.
Right. So the answer to that is that we have to deal with the indemnification request made by the township officials at the time that they're made. I guess if we wanted to hold off on all requests, council could decide to do that, but it's more customary that as the officials request indemnification, that we review their request and that council make a decision on that request.
On a case-by-case basis.
That's correct.
Are there any outstanding?
The only request for indemnification that I'm aware of right now is the one that was made by former Chief Phillips.
That's the only one that's outstanding then, right, as of now?
That's the only one that I'm aware of.
Is there any interest from the council to bring this to the table to discuss a larger strategy, I guess is the next question then?
Councilwoman, I believe we're going into close to talk about that larger strategy overall.
Right, but we're being tasked with voting on this resolution before that happens.
And I think that this is a request that came into the clerk's office in January. I think it dated the end part of January. And we're in conversations, as we mentioned, with the joint insurance fund to split the cost. But yes, we could talk about what the council wants to do on these. I mean, as Jim says, this is the only one that I know of.
Let me give some background on this. Any of us on the council can be sued by anybody at any time. If it indeed happens to be an accusation of some criminal conduct of some sort, we would have to hire a lawyer at our own expense to defend ourselves. Now, if this was a frivolous case, regardless, we still have to defend ourselves, and we would have to pay a lawyer to defend us. After we are found not guilty of whatever the accusation is, okay, the purpose of this is so that any of us on elected officials that get sued like this can ask for reimbursement on a charge that was charged against us as elected officials, and we were found not guilty, or the case was dropped. Ask for reimbursement. I think it's a fair request in most cases, and we had it once before. Jamie, when Jamie Barbario and John Inglesino were sued, they were found not guilty. Inglesino never asked us for reimbursement, but Jamie did. And we reimbursed his funds at that time. So this is not uncommon, and any of us can be sued at any time. So I suggest you think about it in those terms. We have no control over what people want to sue us for.
Sure, I want to establish then that this is separate and distinct from any open litigation that's happening.
Exactly. We have to consider each one on a case-by-case basis.
And
Right,
Jim,
the
your
request-
feeling is, go ahead.
The request for indemnification here does not relate to any of the current civil actions that the township is involved in. This was a separate criminal complaint that was brought against Chief Phillips.
Would it be possible to table this to closed session and vote on it immediately, vote on just this line immediately following closed session because it seems to me like there's enough conversation around this that it just warrants a little bit more information.
That's certainly within the purview of council. It can be tabled. We can put it on for closed session tonight and come back out and take action on it. That's up to the majority of council to decide.
Okay, Emily, you can make a motion to table this until after our closed session.
I'll do that. I'd like to make a motion to table this until after closed session, please.
I'll
And
say,
we should add this topic then to our closed session agenda.
Yes, I will. What I will do right now, we have a motion to table by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. McCarthy. For that motion to table, hold on, McCarthy. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy,
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
Yes,
Ms. McCarthy,
yes,
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero, and actually, we're going to, okay, that's fine.
Yes,
Mr. DePiero, yes, sorry about that. So we're gonna go ahead and, Mr. Lott, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I add this when I'm reading the resolution for closed session.
Thank you.
With that being said, with resolution 2021-07 being tabled, we're going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda for all other resolutions. Could I please have a motion? Motion by Ms. Peterson, can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carriffy. Roll call, Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
yes,
Ms. McCarthy,
yes,
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
yes,
Motion passes. Moving along, approval of payroll and bills list. CFO Juan Uribe recommends authorization for payment, authorized payment of the March 19th, 2021 regular and miscellaneous payroll estimated at 1.6 million. And payment of bills from voucher list March 15th, 2021 through March 17th, 2021, which is $2,850,800.24. Could I have a motion to approve the above authorization for payment, please?
Motion. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Carriffy, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy.
Yes.
Ms. Grignani,
yes,
Ms. McCarthy,
yes,
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
yes,
Motion passes. All right, moving along to the executive session. Resolution, whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss attorney-client privilege, contract expiration, No Country Club LLC, attorney-client privilege, municipal regulation of legalized cannabis, attorney-client privilege, litigation, Carriffy, v. Township Parsippany Troy Hills, Carriffy 1, Carriffy 4, and Perk arbitrations, and the authorization of the reimbursement of the legal expenses and disbursements in the amount of $10,051 incurred in the defense of retired police chief. And whereas the minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township Parsippany Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting. Can I please have a motion to adjourn into closed session?
Motion.
Second.
Second,
Okay, so motion made by Ms. Peterson, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call. Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
yes.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Okay, we are now going to go into closed session. We do anticipate that potential action may be taken on that one resolution as previously discussed for members of the public. So let's please go ahead and go into closed session now. Okay, could I please have a motion to reconvene into open session?
Motion,
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Grignani, seconded by Ms. Peterson. Roll call. Hold on. Ms. Grignani,
yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yeah.
Okay, we are now back into open session. For the record, Resolution 2021-57, which is number 19 on the consent agenda. No action will be taken on that for tonight, and it will remain tabled for the record. With that being said, could I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion, McCarthy.
Second, Grignani.
Okay, motion made by Ms. McCarthy, seconded by Ms. Grignani. Roll call, Ms. Grignani,
Yes.
Ms. McCarthy,
Yes.
Ms. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. DePiero.
Yes.
We have made it through this meeting. Thank you all for your time, and you all have a great night.
Good night.
St. Patrick's Day. Good night.
Good night.
Eringo bra.